In 2012, the sun took a shot at you. It missed by 9 days. You never even heard about it. It is 1 o'clock in the morning, September 1st, 1859. Light is pouring through your window. You step outside your cabin in the Rocky Mountains, and the sky is on fire. Green, red, purple, bright enough to read by. So you do what half the miners in your camp are doing. You light the stove and start making breakfast. Nobody knows. This is the Carrington Event, the most powerful solar storm in recorded history. And this one connected. So what happens when the sun connects with your world? In 1859, the sun swung at a planet with almost nothing to break. Yours is nothing but things to break. Here is what actually happened. 18 hours before the miners made breakfast, just before noon in England, an astronomer named Richard Carrington was sketching sunspots. He did this every clear day, and as he drew, 2 beads of blinding white light flared on the face of the sun, burned for 5 minutes, and vanished. He had just become the first human being ever to watch a solar flare. What he could not see was what it threw at us. A cloud of solar plasma weighing 1 billion tons, hurled off the sun and aimed at the Earth. When it slammed into Earth's magnetic field, it did something nobody knew was possible. It turned the planet into the inside of a generator. Electricity began to flow through the ground itself, through rock, through soil, through seawater, and through every long wire human beings had ever strung. Then the sky lit up everywhere at once. The glow was brighter than the full moon. People in New York read the evening paper in the street at midnight, and to understand how wrong that night was, you have to know what the aurora is. It only ever burns at the poles, the 2 places the planet's magnetic shield bleeds the sun's particles down into the air until it glows. That night, it was over Havana, over Hawaii, over southern Japan. It was seen almost on the equator, over Colombia, by people who had no word for what they were looking at. The shield was not draining anymore. It was overflowing. In London, the needle recording Earth's magnetic field swung so violently it ran off the chart. And the telegraph, the only electrical technology on Earth, went insane. That same night in Boston, an operator reached for his key and the machine bit him. A spark jumped into his hand. The paper on his desk started to smoke. Pylons threw sparks into the street. Telegraph paper burst into flame in offices on 2 continents. And in the middle of the chaos, the operators in Boston and Portland tried an experiment. They unplugged the batteries at both ends of the line, and the messages kept flowing, cleaner than before. No power, no battery. The wires were alive on their own, so they got on with business, and for about 2 hours, 2 cities ran on power that was falling out of the sky. Across the world, the superstitious were certain Armageddon had come. Then everyone went back to their lives. It would take more than a century to realize the fanatics had been closer to the truth than anyone knew, because that was 1859. The total damage was some scorched telegraph offices and 1 very confused breakfast. So if the same storm arrived today, we would be fine, right? We have satellites now, backups, a century and a half of progress. Wrong. If it happened today, we would be in far more trouble, not less. And to see why, you just have to look at how the modern world actually runs. Electricity is made in a few big places and pushed to you across transmission lines that run for hundreds of miles. At each end sit transformers, machines the size of houses. They step the voltage up for the journey, then back down for your street. Everything you own hangs off that chain, and the sun has already reached up and snapped it. In the Halloween storms of 2003, a passing burst cooked a dozen giant transformers in South Africa. Because those transmission lines are, by accident, the largest antennas ever built. The storm pushes a slow rogue current through them, a kind of current the system was never designed to carry. That current shoves the transformer's magnetic core past its limit, and the machine starts cooking itself. The windings overheat. The insulation burns. In minutes, the house-sized heart that feeds a city is scrap metal. And there is no pile of spares. Each one is custom built, and a replacement can take years to make. Meanwhile, in orbit, the storm is not a pretty glow. It is a sandblast of charged particles that flips bits, fries circuits, and shoves satellites off course. So what does that cost you? This is not a blackout that ends when the storm does. In 2013, Lloyd's of London ran the numbers for the United States alone. $600 billion to $2.6 trillion, just to get back to normal. Recovery time, 4 to 10 years. And the lights are the gentle part. Your water pressure dies with the pumps. The fuel pumps stop. Your fridge goes warm, and food and medicine spoil with it. Your cards, the cash machines, payroll, gone. Crop yields fall by more than 1/3 because fertilizer factories run on the same grid as everything else. The 1850s got a light show. We would get the 1850s back without the skills to live there, and South Africa got off lightly. In March 1989, a storm hit Quebec head-on. The provincial grid collapsed in under 90 seconds. Millions of people, 9 hours of darkness. The auroras reached Texas. Months later, a smaller storm reached into the Toronto Stock Exchange and killed 3 separate backup disk drives at the same moment. Trading simply stopped. 90 seconds, one province. And that storm was a fraction of Carrington's size. And then there's the shot that missed. In July 2012, the sun fired a full Carrington-class eruption. It tore across Earth's orbit, straight through the patch of space you were sitting in 9 days earlier. A NASA spacecraft happened to be floating there, exactly where we would have been. It took the direct hit and measured everything. 9 days. That is the margin your entire way of life cleared it by. That is the shot you never heard about. And the sun can do worse. The trees remember. In 2012, a physicist in Japan named Fusa Miyake went counting radioactive carbon in the rings of ancient cedars. In the rings for the year 774, there it was, a spike left by a solar storm roughly 10 times the size of Carrington's. The sun has thrown punches an order of magnitude harder than the one that set the telegraphs burning. It just threw them at a planet with nothing to break. That was not mercy, that was timing. Somewhere on the far side of the sun, the next one is loading. And when it comes, birds will sing at midnight and you will stare at the sky just like the miners did. The miners went back to bed. Nothing in their world needed power. Everything in yours does. 1859 was not the disaster, it was the demonstration. The sun fired a warning shot at an empty world, and we spent the next century and a half filling in the target. The sun never changed. We just don't give it the respect it deserves. And this is not a prophecy, it is arithmetic. The sun keeps erupting, the earth is small, and most shots miss. Every generation gets a coin flip. Yours has come up heads every time. That is the entire plan. Keep flipping heads.